Hello and welcome to week 4 in social psychology. And this week we're going to be taking on chapter 6 and chapter 7. Chapter 6, we're going to look at self and identity from the perspective of social psychology. And chapter 7, we're going to look at social cognition and attitudes. And such great topics to talk about in a psychology class. So here we are in chapter 6. And in the course book, I take some time looking at a few things, including the concept that is introduced in the material actor, agent, and author of our lives and how those manifest across the lifespan. So the actor component brings in some developmental components, the development of the individual, their perceptions of themselves, the idea of theory of mind, that my mind is separate from somebody else, and then moving out through developmental milestones that are described in the course book. As an agent, we ask, where does our motivation come from? And I bring into the conversation the notion of looking glass self as one of the key components of how we are building the schema that we call I, or myself. And looking glass self is certainly one of my favorite topics to talk about. Finally, we have the author. You are the author of your life. You are the scribe. You are the decision maker in all of those developmental and sociological contexts. Okay, so the first discussion comes in, and I ask you to talk about milestones. Let me tell you about the origin of that word, because I just think it's funny. Fun. It's just not funny. But the Roman Empire built roads all over the world, all over their dominion, and they wanted to be able to make marks along the road for every mile. So they would place a very special stone called a milestone, and it marked every mile that was measured along the road. Now, as centurions were traveling from one place to another, or as individuals were making a long trek, they would want to be able to gauge how far have we come, and they would designate someone in their group to count the milestones. So it's a way of identifying progress. So how cool is that? So in the discussion, I want you to look at two developmental milestones. That's looking at Erikson's theory, that's looking at looking glass self, that's looking at theory of mind, looking at those and how those impacted who you are. Particularly Erikson's theory and theory of mind. Those are very central in my developmental psych class. We talk about those extensively. Those are really good ways to consider when things fundamentally changed for you. Now, in chapter 6, I'm asking you in a paragraph to get your head really wrapped around the notion of actor, agent, author, and describe what that means to you. Where are you developmentally? Where are you in terms of social influences, such as the looking glass self? And how are you the author of your own story, your own narrative of your life? So, it's a good way to explain it. I'm proud of that. The assignment is a presentation. Now, it's the same idea as the milestones, when the milestone discussion is asking for you to look at the theories of Erikson and looking at theory of mind. In the presentation, I want you to tell me 4 stories which may indeed correspond with events in Erikson's theory of how we make our way through life. But 4 stories, I want you to describe those stories that made a significant impact on the person you are today. And we're looking for ways in social psychology in which society gave us information, gave us guidance, good or bad, and we used that information to create the schema that we call myself, or I, or the self. So I'm asking for 4 stories. That's on one slide. On the next slide, you're analyzing and reflecting upon that from a psychological, sociological, and hear this, a looking glass self perspective. I want all 3 of those perspectives, basically social psych, and looking glass self on each one of those 4 stories. Now that's in the presentation, that's described in the rubric that's included in the assignment. Now we switch gears a little bit. We look over at chapter 7. We're going to be looking at social cognition and attitudes. And we see an expansion right off the bat. We see an expansion of the notion of self-schema into other schemas that we're creating. We have event schemas, social schemas, institutional schemas, role schemas, object schemas. All of these, if you've taken Introduction to Sociology from me, and I think it's in my course book, I define culture as having norms, values, and expectations. The expectations is right there. That's what these are. They're my internal representations, my sociological imagination. Let's say if you want to draw another concept from that Introduction to Sociology book. And it's how I see the world and how I'm expecting things to work. When events happen, let's say, I'm going to a concert, what am I going to expect? Am I going to be surprised by something that I didn't expect? Those kinds of things. Another thing that we get into in this chapter is negativity bias, availability heuristics. Read up on that. Those are new topics that are spreading around all of new focal points from my own work as a teacher. I'm putting those in more and more of my courses. These are ways in which our automated brain tricks us. So we have negativity bias, we have almost genetic. We focus on negative because I have to worry about the negative things. I don't have to worry about the positive things. I got a meal today, but there's a hurricane coming, so I'm going to focus not on the good thing, I'm going to focus on the negative thing, but that gives us a bias. And then, of course, availability heuristics. And then in the course book, a reference to Steven Pinker's book, which I think is required reading for everybody. I then go into some other fallacies in our thinking, including planning fallacy, which is we have a tendency to underestimate how long things will take, how complicated they're going to be, what's going to happen, trips. We underestimate things and they end up tricking ourselves. Effective forecasting, we can actually get into a habit of forecasting how we're going to feel about a particular situation. Hot cognition refers to things almost like the negativity bias. If there's something hot in our mind, we're going to have that bias and we're going to be thinking and we're going to be searching for things that validate that. A need for closure. So actually we talk about this in psychotherapy about needing closure, but there's all kinds of things in our lives that will never have closure. And the stronger we attach ourselves to that need, the more difficulty we might have. And then, of course, priming, which is a lot like availability heuristics. I already have an idea, I'm looking around me, and I'm kind of like getting ready. Now, it can happen in terms of bias, but it can also happen in terms of I'm heading over to have a discussion, a serious, maybe confrontational discussion with somebody, get myself all worked up. Oh, they're going to do this, they're going to do blah, blah, blah. And that might prime us to react in ways that are unfair and inaccurate. So in this chapter, we're looking at a discussion and a quiz. In the discussion, state your opinion about something, raw, right out there, and then reflect on the impact it would have if there was irrefutable. We're playing a game here. It's not irrefutable evidence that you're wrong. What would that be like? A truly held belief system. Let's say I truly believe my mom gave birth to me. What if I found out that that was not true at this point? She's passed away. What would that be like for me to confront this belief system that I've had my whole life with something else? So it can be have fun with this one. Put out, it's in the course book, so I'll be upfront about it. I believe there are aliens, and I believe that we know about them. So that's part of my. It's a little odd. I don't wear T-shirts. I don't go to conventions, but I follow that kind of material. Maybe I just hope that it's true. What if there was just irrefutable evidence that wasn't true? It'd be disappointing for me. Okay, in the quiz, I'm having you look at event schemas, and that's when you participated in a thing. Like I just went to see a concert, went to see a couple concerts, but I'll focus on the Sting concert. Went to the Sting concert up in Bangor. Great show. And what do I expect? I'm going to go in there. There's going to be the security. There's going to be, you have to show your phone now, probably pick up a beer, head up into the stands, doing all those things. What am I going to expect? I've been to a lot of concerts over my life. Pretty straightforward. I did go in, however, having seen Sting 5 times, he's my favorite artist, that he's kind of an aloof guy. He just kind of plays his music. I wouldn't be surprised if he just turned his back on the audience and just started playing, and played out the concert. I love the music. I don't care what he's doing up there. I was pleasantly surprised about the intimacy of that concert, how he talked to the audience and he was out front all the time, goofing around and stuff like that. His son opened up for him, and there was all kinds of pleasant surprises. Now, there wasn't really, a super, block against my schema about how concerts go, but it was a little one. Now, let's say if I got in there and I had a seat, because I actually do like to sit and watch concerts. I don't stand up all the time. And what if I found out, that my seat got eliminated and I was way out back and things didn't work out the way, and here I am paying for a ticket to go see my favorite artist, and I'm now stuck way out back instead of close to the front where I was. So, that would be something. So in this particular quiz, I'm asking you to reflect on an event, whether it be like an event or just like a happening. I went into the store once and unexpected things happened, or expected things happen. My point is, there's one question when you describe an event that went just like you expected, and then you describe another event that didn't go as it was expected, and reflect on those. Reflect on, when your expectations are fulfilled and when your expectations are not fulfilled in events in your life, and that kind of thing. So, and it could be good or bad. I mean, I've certainly, gone into situations maybe expecting that things aren't going to be as pleasant, and then, wow, what a cool thing happened. And I'll tell you the story. The second concert I went to see was Loverboy and REO Speedwagon and Styx. And at the end of the headliner, which was REO Speedwagon, rather than a encore, they played their last song, all the lights came up, and the whole crew came out, everybody, and they're all jumping around to the music and goofing off, and because it was the last night of the tour. And everybody's like, we went through this together, and there was this incredible sense of community, and we got to see individuals really emote quite a bit with friends that they've been on the road with for so long, and the stars and the crew people and the light people and sound people, they all came on stage and they're whooping and hollering and stuff. And so the audience got a treat to actually participate in that kind of event that they were going through, celebrating this time that they had spent together, and that, now they could go home and they could relax and appreciate all the hard work they did. And it was touching, and it was amazing. What a great way to end a concert. Way better than an encore and just the lights going down and us leaving. Everywhere in the place, there was actually a very, very uplifted, happy, festive mood at the end of the show. So it could be a positive or negative thing that when the schema doesn't work out the way it is. So that's it for this week. I look forward to all of these things coming in. I'm really enjoying the discussions, I'm not participating too much, but I'm reading them, spot reading every once in a while, following some discussions, and there's some really cool stuff going on. I find sometimes when I post, it kind of kills the conversation. So I'm kind of sitting back a little bit, but you folks are doing really, really well in that area. So I will see more of that this coming week, and have a great week.